Hello, everyone. A few days ago, I penned an irritated tweet in response to one of the latest happenings on the increasingly heated culture war front. In response to the decision of an actor named Ellen Elliott Page. I am employing this awkward and impossible naming style because it is now apparently mandatory, and am probably doing it wrong nonetheless, as you're doing it wrong is the whole point of what has been made mandatory. But also, I'm trying to make a point. I've essentially been banned from Twitter as a consequence. I say banned, although technically I have been suspended. But the suspension will not be lifted unless I delete the hateful tweet in question, and I would rather die than do that. And hopefully it will not come to that.
Yeah, well, no, I don't think you're going to have to die. I don't think it's going to come to that. I think you are choosing to do this. You are choosing to make yourself out to be a victim for money and for fame and for notoriety on the right. That's all this is. We know exactly what it is. That's why he is currently suspended. That's why Dave Rubin is also suspended after violating Twitter's hate speech guidelines. Now, he is elevating himself to be a victim. He has no idea why all I did was screenshot Jordan Peterson, and then also I dead-named Elliot Page exactly the same. And I did it intentionally. And so I've been suspended for the exact same reason, and I knew I would. But now I'm gonna pretend that I have no idea why that is. And what do you know? I've been canceled, and I'm gonna go on tons of shows and all sorts of things to publicize this. And I'm gonna make tons of money for how canceled I've become. That's all this is. But that isn't why I really wanted to talk about this. The reason that they have been canceled, like we can argue about whether Twitter should have the particular guidelines that it does, but they knew what the guidelines were and they chose to violate them. They either believe that corporations can set guidelines for you using their totally optional private service, or you don't believe that. You're right wingers. You definitely believe they shouldn't be overly regulated. So this is what you get. They get to make these decisions. That's not why I'm talking about this. I want to dive into more about Jordan Peterson and the ridiculous stuff that he did right there. But first, Francesco, what do you think about these suspensions?
I mean, I think he was right. To be suspended, obviously, I don't think that misgendering or dead naming someone who's trans could get you suspended or should get you suspended. But I definitely think that if you're Jordan Peterson, Twitter knows exactly what you're doing. Twitter knows exactly that you're going after trans people, just like you go after women whose body type doesn't get you horny. Like literally, this guy is so effing fragile. But he also called Elliot Page's surgeon a criminal, criminal for performing top surgery. You're like, no, you don't get to call people criminal. I'm sorry, you don't get to do that. So I think it's on a long list of stuff that Jordan Peterson has done, but bless him for this amazing, we talked about it on the Habituation Rooms bonus episode, him in his little Men's Warehouse outfit and going to his little homecoming, his little incel homecoming. And there he goes. And this is an impossible naming standard. It's not impossible, you just did it. It's Elliot now. He's a he. You're done, Papa. It's impossible.
Well, and hold on. Because it's actually you're being fair, but you're almost being too fair to him. He said there, Ellen, Elliot, he, she. That's the standard. I'm probably getting it wrong. No, you're intentionally getting it wrong.
Yeah.
Look, I don't think you're nearly as intelligent as you've convinced some young men to think that you are, but you're definitely intelligent enough to know that. So let's be clear about that. He is very intentionally pretending to not understand something. Now, if you want to look up to a person who would do that as your intellectual icon, the avatar of all that is logical and reasonable, you can choose to do that, but let's be clear about the fact that he's playing you. He's pretending that this is an impossible thing to understand. It is not. And by the way, I think that if it wasn't clear that you were operating out of animus and out of bad faith, I think, and it's not on me to determine, that a lot of trans people would be very understandable if you occasionally made a slip up. But when you're intentionally pretending that this is an impossible thing, what is the Latin derivation for your new name? No, it's Elliot. It's Elliot. You can remember Elliot. And by the way, you don't have to talk about this person ever. Now, I would say It requires nothing of you to extend to a person calling them by the name that they want. Just that is the most base level, we live in a society stuff right there. But you could also choose to not talk about this actor. I'm probably, outside of these issues, never gonna talk about this actor because it's one person. You're choosing to attack this person in the same way that he chose to attack that swimsuit model that I guess didn't make him hard or whatever. He is purposefully doing this stuff and then saying, I guess the culture war is coming for me. No, you are trying to make a name for yourself, make money, sell books by engaging with these things. And the culture war is not Elliot expecting you to not be an a-hole. The culture war is the ongoing war against trans people, against the entire LGBTQ+ community that you all have been persecuting for years in lieu of actually taking governance seriously. You are engaging in that war. Some people expect just like a little bit of decency, or at least to be ignored. You have chosen to go after Elliot. That's what you chose to do, Jordan Peterson.
Amen.
And if I could go just a little bit farther, we're not gonna show you other videos or whatever, but you can watch because that was not the entirety of his overly dramatically lit, like, oh God, it's so pathetic and cringy and needy. How could you possibly look up to this person? He said, unless I take down my hateful tweet. And what he's projecting there is, all I did was say the name that I think is objectively true. There's nothing hateful about it. And virtually every one of the almost all guys who follow Jordan Peterson would say, he is just an intellectual. He is just being logical. Why are you all being emotional? I want you to watch the other videos that he put up. Because at one point he goes on and does his thing again. Elliot, Ellen, he, she, whatever it wants to be named. And he is so clearly enraged by this person. He wants to pretend that it was just a mistake. It was just an accident. No, it was an intentional thing being driven by his rage against this individual and this community. He is overcome by emotion. They all are. They play it up for the show because they got to fill hours or whatever. But there is something messed up about them where they freak out about this community. They're not Vulcans. They're not raw logic and reason. They are being emotional. If you cannot simply say, oh, Elliot, okay, I'm gonna go back to never thinking about you again. There is something fundamentally broken about you that you can't do that. That is so base level.
But he also never thought about Elliot Page before Elliot transitioned, just never. And other than to maybe be like, I'm totally not attracted to that actress in Juno. Like not hot, right? Like you only think about Elliot because they're trans. That's it. So anyway, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just you don't have to understand it. You don't like you're apparently like you're supposed to be an intellectual. You're supposed to be curious. If anyone could be expected to have the natural curiosity and open-mindedness to actually learn about this community, it would be you. Clearly, you don't have that. You cannot rise to that level. So just go about your business. You don't need to interact with the trans community, literally at all. You don't need to opine on them. You don't have to. You're choosing to do that. You're pretending to be victimized for money. That is pathetic. And I'm not getting through to him. He's not gonna watch this. But if even one person who might come across one of his books and be convinced all through marketing, all through PR, this guy is just trying to get men to be responsible and clean their rooms. No, that's not what he is doing. What he is trying to do is indoctrinate them into a fascist worldview, a worldview that despises difference and diversity, despises open-mindedness, compassion, empathy, curiosity. That's what they're doing. Yeah, the front door to that disgusting building is just clean your room and you'll be more responsible. But take a look inside and you'll get what he's selling today.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.